We've all hit that block in Minecraft. Well, not that particular block, but the block where you've built up your world and you're not quite sure what you need to build next. Now, this block can happen when you've already built up a significant part of your world, or when you're starting a brand new adventure for the very first time. Ultimately, when you're building in Minecraft, you're going to find that you're just not sure what you want to build next, or where the current build is even going. So today I'm going to teach you two very important things that I use when I am creating builds like this dock that you see in the background. And by following these two simple steps, you can build almost anything that your heart desires within Minecraft. So, if that's something you think you're going to enjoy, then do me a favor, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and hit subscribe. I can't tell you how much they really help out the channel. As a small YouTuber, I'm trying to grow, so literally every like, comment, and subscription really does help. And thank you very much for everybody who liked and subscribed from my tree building tutorial video that I did a few days ago. I'll leave an iCard if you want to learn how to do custom trees. Very easy technique, very simple to do. Anybody can do them, and they look amazing. I think they look amazing anyway, but I built them, so I may be biased. Let me know what you think. Anyway, without any further ado, let's jump into the episode. And before I end that, I'm going to try and jump into this episode without catching the mute button on my mic, because it's the second time I've had to do this intro. Now, when it comes to my tutorials, I don't like showing you block for block how to do something. I'm not going to show you block for block how to build something in this video, but I'm going to talk you through a process that you can apply to your builds that will help you be able to build pretty much anything that you want in Minecraft, even when you're stuck, which, you know, happens to every single one of us. So we're going to start here. So this is one of the oldest worlds on my channel. This is Minecraft Survival Season 1. And it started here in the desert. And back when I made these videos, you could really just make a Minecraft video in about an hour. You didn't have to do really massive builds, but then the format started to change. So I started a second project over here, a little bit away from the desert city. And while I did like this, it wasn't giving me the feel that I wanted. Ultimately, I would make the decision that a season 2 was necessary, and I was going to completely start over. So I had to start thinking. And you may be wondering where this is going. Well, you see, I was going to start over somewhere else completely new in this world. And I had to pick where, but more importantly, I had to think about what I was going to build first. And so I packed up a box of belongings and I set off for the new world. And oddly enough, the build I was going to build came to me when I was listening to some music. I was listening to an old song called Horse with No Name. And the lyrics go along the lines of, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. And if you look, we are in a desert here. So I decided that that was going to be my story. I was going to cross this desert on a horse. And now we're back here, where the intro clip was recorded. This is my farm. This is the same world as that desert that you've just saw. And if we look back at the lore and the story that I've just told you about going through the horse on a desert with no name, No, not the horse with a desert with no name. Going through the desert on a horse with no name. Words, they can be difficult. I came up with this idea. Now, unfortunately, when I got to this land, I could only find these, which weren't the kind of brown horses that I wanted, but they worked nonetheless. But I figured, you know what? I was going to set up in a carriage, because it would make sense that I would have the horse dragging my carriage, especially in a medieval world. This was a way of transport. And so I built a carriage, and this was my starter base. And I came up with this idea by simply following the lore and the story that I had developed for my character, going through the desert on a horse with no name. I got it right that time. And then when I got here, it started to rain. So when I got here, I kind of figured, well, I would want to unload. I would need somewhere to keep shelter. But I didn't want to build a starter house yet, because again, we had just traveled through the desert with all of our belongings in these two chests. I mean, it wasn't just these two chests, but you know, you get the picture. In the lore, I'd only came with this. And would I realistically have the materials needed to build a house? No. So I decided, well, maybe there was a cave here. And we went into the cave and we started living out of this cave. So that we had the cave and the wagon. But then I thought, well, I need some storage. Maybe I did have enough resources to build a storage shed. And so we got this little storage shed here, and we've got some piles of wood at the side for the fire. And ultimately, this first build all came about through that story about going through the desert on a horse with no name. Likewise, this build was from an old Tribal States series that I did, and I'm actually bringing Tribal States back, but be a completely new world. That's beside the point. This build all started over here with this little tent right here. Now again, this build would come from the lore and the story that I had developed. When we created the server, the Tribal State server, me and a couple of friends, we decided that our character's backstory was very simple. We had, for some reason, had to leave our previous settlements, and we were now on our own and fending for ourselves. Me, I decided that my guy had been outed for a crime he hadn't committed. Now, I never did go into details about what the crime was, but that did set up my character's story. I was traveling the land because I didn't have anywhere to stay. So what would I be carrying with me? And I put my thinking cap on, and when I got here, there were these sheep roaming around. And there were also a bunch of oak and birch trees here. They were the only resources I really had. Yes, there's a jungle in the distance, but I'm thinking about what I had locally here. And then that's when it hit me. I was traveling the land. How would I be sleeping? A sleeping bag? A hammock? Maybe a cabin in the woods, but realistically, would I always find a cabin? No. And so that's when it hit me. Let's make a tent. And you can see I built this out of the resources I had available to me. And this is something that I strongly encourage. If you're in an area and you're stuck for a build, look at what's around that area. Look at the resources you have available to you, because you can build some amazing things with them. This is just oak, birch, and wool. That is pretty much all I've used here. And we've got mostly the entire campsite done out of that. There are a couple of hay barrels here that I pillaged from the village. And we've got barrels and furnaces on the inside and a lightning rod on top. But ultimately, its pure resources are just oak, birch, and wool. And I was able to create this build by just my story and the lore of my character that he was traveling. Because he was traveling. He was traveling along the land. And it would make sense that he would have this tent that he would pitch when he got to wherever he was going to set up camp, and then he'd pick it back up and move on the next day. So about a year ago, I started a hardcore series here. Now ultimately this series would get cancelled, but that's not why we're here. We're here because we're going to look at what I decided to build first in this world. Now, I went with the lore that we were on a boat and we were sailing down this river because I liked this world and I liked this area. And we had this river and I thought we've got to make use of it. And so I built this boat. And this boat was how our character had come here. He came in this boat, and because it was 2023 and Minecraft videos need to be super detailed now, I had to build more than just a boat. And so I figured he would come in the boat, he would probably build a house, but if we were going to build a house, there needed to be a reason to get the resources. And so we built just a little mine over here with a custom tree. It's just a little danky mine, it's nothing super, but it's a small build that ultimately will add character to the world. But maybe you don't want to build something with lore, so I'm going to a very old world of mine now, even older than the desert city. This was my original building with KC series, and you can see this house here. I really do still like this house, but why was it built in the first place? Well, this was back in the day when you could build a starter house on YouTube and that would be fine. But all I did is I took the resources that I had available to me. There was a huge dark oak forest here. This was large biomes. So we had just dark oak forest all around us. And so I used dark oak paired with stone, because the grey brought us out, to make my first starter house in this world. And I can't express how important story and lore are for your world. If you've got a butcher, baker and candlestick maker, what is his story? Who runs that shop? Is it a he? Is it a she? Whichever it is, make your decision. What is their story? Maybe they get their wax from a bee farm down the road. There you go, you've got an idea now, you've got to build a bee farm. Or maybe the butcher gets it from a cow farm. Do you have a cow farm in your area? No. Does he have a unique cow farm? Does he have his own supplier? Maybe you've already got a cow farm, but this butcher might have his own supplier, so build a second one. Or, you know, we've got the butcher, the baker and the candlestick maker. What's missing there? Wheat. We need wheat for bread. Maybe some wheat fields are a great way. And I think fields actually had so much character to your world. I love them. We've got two right here. So maybe he has a supply of that. Maybe he has a dealer and he only deals with that particular person. So now you can build a second one. Or maybe in general, they just don't have to have a function. The wheat field doesn't really have to supply him, but it can be aesthetically pleasing just to have one. Same with the cow field. Maybe you've just got a random cow patch just to add character to the world, even though you're not taking these cows and getting their leather and their meat from them. Maybe you're just simply having it for aesthetics, and that is perfectly fine to do. I want you to take a look at the wall that I put around this farm. It's very rudimentary and cheap. It's made of wood, but this is a farm. This is what it's designed to be. This whole build is designed to be a huge farm. So it didn't need a huge wall around it, but I did want a way to separate it out. And you can see that I've done that with just a simple wooden wall. And that's just, again, using the same methods that I'm teaching in this video, lore and story. This wasn't a rich farm. It didn't need defending. It just needed a little wall to keep the animals and the crops from getting out. And likewise, I thought, well, farms, they have pieces of unfarmed land. It's something about putting minerals back into the ground. I don't understand it fully. I'm not a farmer, but I live around a lot of farmland where I live, and there's always a field that just isn't tilled, that doesn't have crops in it. And they leave it just to get the minerals back into the soil or something like that anyway. And so we've got this little field here of sweet berry bushes, but this was meant to emulate nettle fields because obviously these sting when you go in them. So that's what gave me this idea, by just using the lore that this was a farm, and in my area I always see a farm that's not farmed properly. And so we've got an overgrown one here. And also farms. Farms are great. Farms are great to add to it. Hey, I'm stuck in a berry bush. And I added more farms here, which then I gave scarecrows to, because you find scarecrows in farms. Although oddly enough, I don't see them in farms anymore around me, and I've got loads of farmland around where I live, and there's just no scarecrows in any of them. But you know, you used to, so they've got scarecrows in them, okay? So we'll go back to the idea of a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker, because this farm could supply that entire business. You've got the wheat fields. We've got the cow farms over there. This was before bees was added to Minecraft, so we don't... Oh, actually, no, I do tell a lie. This was just as bees were added. We even have the beehive. Perfect. I forgot I built this. But we've got the beehive for the wax, for the candlestick maker. And this is all one build. So by taking to the skies, you can see that just by that one idea of a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker, I could have literally built an entire build like this farm just to supplement that. And this is a huge build. This is like massive in terms of size. And all of this just from the idea of a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker, and by following the lore and the story of what that would entail. Now what I'm trying to teach you in this video is it's all about the story and the lore. We've just used that analogy of a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker, and I picked something that's quite commonly used on YouTube in Minecraft scenarios, and we've shown how we can build something from just that one idea of a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker shop, that we could build an entire farm just by looking at what resources we would need to realistically sell them in a realistic world. Now Minecraft isn't realistic. We don't really need all those resources. We could just build small miniature farms that would do all of them if it was more just about productivity. But we're more about the lore and the story, and it gives us this whole idea of building an entire farm just to supply that one shop. And you could take this to any heights you like. I talked about the desert on a horse with no name as the reason why we built the wagon, the tent for the traveling outcasted former king in my tribal state series, and there's just so many other scenarios that you could create in your mind that would tell the story of why your character is doing what your character is doing in Minecraft. Because it's amazing building these builds and having the lore behind them. You can really go somewhere unique, cool, and awesome. And you'll always have inspiration on what to build next by just simply looking at the different lore. We came through the desert on a horse with no name, in this wagon. We had horses. Horses mate. There needs to be a place for these horses to rest. So another one of my first builds in this world was a stable, where even more horses are grazing out back. Since this world and the desert one that I showed you earlier in the video are the same world just several thousand blocks away from each other, I needed a realistic way to move between the two. And so I thought the Nether would be perfect. And as we go through this cave, you can see that I've got a huge Nether portal right here, which sort of peeks through this window out back near the stable. And so I delved into a little bit of story and a little bit of lore. This is proving that you don't have to go as deep as we went with the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, but you can just go a little bit deep with your lore and your story to develop a new build idea. We needed obsidian. Now obsidian's easy, just dig down to bedrock, get it, lava, water, yeah, you know how to get obsidian. But I decided we had this excavation site right here where we had obsidian that we had found. We've got some ores that are here. We were excavating this area, and that's where the obsidian came from. So I turned a simple routine thing in Minecraft, getting obsidian, into an entire build just so that I could have the obsidian for the Nether portal. So if you're ever hitting that block in Minecraft where you're not quite sure what to build next, go to your story, go to your lore, and think, well, what do these need? And by following that, you should be able to find something that you want to build. And if you're not sure exactly what you want it to look like, do as I do. Google, Pinterest, Instagram. Don't use other people's builds block for block, but you'll find inspiration in what they're building and then be able to create something that is truly your own. And before I bid you a farewell, I would like to ask if you could leave me a comment down below letting me know some of the things that you are building in your world. I'm very interested in story and lore that people develop. I find it fascinating, the stories that the human mind can come up with. I really do love tales and legends and urban legends and things like that you can wove into your own tapestry of your own Minecraft world. But that's going to do it for me. If you've enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like, hit subscribe, consider checking out my other channels. There's a link down below. And as always, I'm Casey. You're the awesome one. Thank you so much. Take care now.
A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say. I need a break.